Thank you for joining our session, Setting Up for Success, Jamf Fundamentals, and Jamf Now. My name is Jackie Peterson, Manager, Customer Success. During this presentation, you will also hear from Chaz Matlin, a Senior Technical Support Engineer, and Felix Peters, Senior Apple Alliance Executive. The objective for this presentation is to equip you with the knowledge and information that you can use to successfully and effectively set up and manage devices using Jamf Now and Jamf Fundamentals. These recommendations are based off of different functionality and workflow that our most successful Jamf Now admins use to get the full benefits of the product. This recording will also be hosted on our YouTube channel post JNUC, so if we go over any part too quickly, just know you can always circle back and rewatch. There is also an accompanying handout with the presentation that links to all the talking points discussed. Feel free to also use the chat portion, as we are all here to answer any questions you have during the presentation. An overview of today's agenda will be the difference between Jamf Now and Jamf Fundamentals, setting you up for success, some recommendations, and resources. Let's get started. Jamf Now offers two convenient service plans, Jamf Now, formerly the Standard Plan, and Jamf Fundamentals, formerly the Plus Plan. Jamf Now contains all the basic mobile device management functionality like device management, bulk app deployment, and security settings. The Jamf Now plan is free for the first 3 devices and $2 a device per month for additional devices. There is no feature difference between the free version and the paid version. Our Jamf Fundamentals plan has a few more additions and features to the Jamf Now plan to empower our more advanced users empower more advanced users with new ways to manage Apple devices. Jamf Fundamentals includes all the features of Jamf Now plan along with the following additional features: deploy custom iPad and iPhone apps, deploy custom Mac packages, access to Composer, our packaging tool, deploy custom configuration profiles, Mac malware prevention and Jamf Protect, Mac password sync with Jamf Connect, deploy Mac App Store apps and custom apps with self-service for Mac OS, and priority escalation. The Jamf Fundamentals plan is $4 per device per month. Let's take a look at how you can upgrade to the Jamf Fundamentals plan. You simply click your name in the lower left-hand corner, select Account, go on the right-hand side, select Compare Plans, scroll down, and choose Upgrade. You can follow the same steps to toggle back to the Jamf Now plan as well. When you first sign up for your Jamf Now account, you will be asked to set a few things up in order to create a trusted relationship between your devices, Apple, and Jamf Now. The first being the APNs, which is the Apple Push Notification Service Certificate. We recommend a neutral Apple ID. This will ensure that the APNs cert will always be accessible for renewal on an annual basis. You will also be asked to enter the Apple ID in order to save it and make it easier to reference when you renew in the future. Next, I will hand it off to Felix to tell you a little bit more about setting up for success in Apple Business Manager.
Thank you, Jackie. As you said, let's start talking about Apple Business Manager. We see 3 major benefits IT admins should be aware of within Apple Business Manager, and we want to highlight them right now. And as you can see them on the slide, benefits of device deployment, benefits of volume purchasing, and benefits of managed Apple ID. So let's just go into it and highlight each of them by themselves. Let's start with Apple device deployment. First of all, these features is needed for zero-touch deployment, meaning IT does not need to unpack each device and set them up manually anymore. The device can be opened and started by the actual end user, saving IT a lot of time. Once Apple Business Manager is connected to Jamf Now, the device serial number will be recognized in Jamf Now, and the device will be linked to Jamf Now directly through the setup process. The MDM profile that will be pushed during this setup will be mandatory, and the end user cannot remove this profile. All devices activated with Apple Business Manager will also be supervised, and this is for macOS and iOS devices. Jamf Now can push OS updates to these activated devices. and make sure that we keep them up to date. Chaz will later show you how to skip setup steps of the Setup Assistant to speed up the process of setting up your device, or just skip irrelevant parts that could confuse end users while setting up their devices. You can set up a default blueprint that will be automatically deployed to all ABM or Apple Business Manager activated devices to make sure basic security settings and basic apps are installed on all new devices. You can also get a little bit more specific and select a blueprint for each device within Jamf Now before they are activated and turned on, making sure the end user will be assigned to the right group and the right department from the start on. If you do have devices that are not in Apple Business Manager yet, you could add them manually via Apple Configurator 2. Be aware, devices that are activated through Apple Business Manager and Apple Configurator 2 will be deleted completely during the process. This can be done for iOS devices, TV OS devices, Apple iPad OS, and Mac OS devices. All of them can be added later through Apple Configurator to Apple Business Manager. Let's go on to volume purchasing. With volume purchasing, IT admins can purchase apps within bulks within Apple Business Manager. This is the case for free apps and for paid apps. No need to install every app manually on every single device anymore. Just go get a copy 10 times, 20 times, or 100 times of this app and deploy them all at once to all your devices that need these apps. These licenses will stay within the company, and therefore you also have the ability to retract this app and move it on or deploy it to somebody else. No need to repurchase an app anymore. Also nowadays, you can find custom apps within Apple Business Manager. These apps are built only for your organization by a developer and can be deployed the same way as App Store apps. The third part will be managed Apple IDs. Managed Apple IDs can be used in your company if you don't want to use personal Apple IDs on company-owned devices. You can create managed Apple IDs in Apple Business Managers. These Apple IDs can be used for iMessage, FaceTime, and iCloud. They are not able to install apps through the App Store though. The apps deployed will be done by Jamf Now to ensure only business apps will be applied to company devices. You can also have 5 GB of iCloud space within every managed Apple ID. And also the Apple Business Manager admin can reset the password of these Apple IDs in case a person leaves the company and you cannot get hold of them anymore. Let's dive into Jamf Now. First up, blueprints. As Jackie already mentioned, these blueprints are your device groups, including all apps and settings you need for your devices. You will be able to create multiple blueprints for different purposes. There will be already 3 blueprints within Jamf Now by default. When you get started, you can use these default blueprints or create your own ones. Up to you and your choice. You will be able to choose volume purchases, apps, and so you will be able to choose volume purchases apps here and deploy them to all devices of your choice. Moving on, I want to give you a little hint on how to copy a blueprint. This makes it way easier than starting with 0 on every blueprint that you create. As a smart tip, to copy a blueprint instead of configuring every blueprint from 0. As you can see in the video, you can set up any blueprint and just click on copy, change the name, and you're done. Now you can keep configuring the blueprint for a different group and keep adding apps and settings without doing it manually and doing it all over again for every new blueprint that you want to create. And I'm going to pass on to Chaz.
Hey, thanks, Felix. Hey, everyone. Let's start by going over our main recommendations for iOS device management. App usage allows you to choose which iPad, iPhone, or Apple TV apps are available on supervised devices. The setting is effective at ensuring that users are using the device for its intended purpose. Many admins also use app usage to remove unnecessary apps from devices, and this would be mainly including native apps that come pre-installed on the OSs that are shipped with devices. You can also specifically blacklist certain apps from appearing, as well as using, or you can blacklist certain apps by using the hide some apps configuration as well. So on the screen here, I'm just demoing how you can add specific apps that you want to have appear. As we can see on the iPad that's connected to this Mac, those are the only apps available, and that's why app usage is super helpful, because you only get the apps, or you only show the apps that you want your end users to use. Moving on to single app mode. Single app mode lets you lock any supervised iPad, iPhone, or Apple TV to one app to focus the device for a single need. For example, single app mode is great for devices being used as a kiosk. Another feature of single app mode is that you can control how users interact with iPads and iPhones by enabling or disabling any of the following settings. This would be like screen auto lock, screen input, screen rotation, volume control, the sleep wake button, and side switch. So you really have full control over how that device behaves after you place a device in single app mode. Lastly, we recommend configuring Wi-Fi settings and blueprints when using single app mode to ensure devices will always have a Wi-Fi connection if needed. And this is because devices won't be able to go into the settings app to manually connect to Wi-Fi networks. So you want to make sure that device has the networks it needs to connect to already remembered. So if you take it on site, it'll just auto connect to Wi-Fi and you're good to go. Web clips. The main function of web clips is to provide a fast access to your most used web pages. Web clips display as an icon on the home screen of an iPad, iPhone, or the dock of a Mac. You can also create web clips that when clicked, they execute functions like linking important contact information like we see on the screen currently. You could also have it open up a certain GPS location in Apple Maps. And you can also have web clips that specifically open in Chrome if Chrome is already pre-installed on the device. We recommend checking out the web clip help center article linked in our handout to learn more if you ever want to dig into this. One other valuable web clip trick is to restrict and hide Safari to block access to the internet browsing as a whole. And then you can deploy specific web clips to devices to only allow end users to access certain web pages. So kind of a neat trick that you can do if you want to limit browsing to certain websites. Lost mode. Lost mode is a feature that allows you to lock a mobile device and track its GPS location. The device will report the GPS coordinates when the command is received and executed, and that happens during device check-in. Lost mode adds an additional protection for mobile devices and their data in the event that a device was ever lost or stolen. Keep in mind that a device needs to have a network connection to receive and execute lost mode. So that means like a device with a cellular connectivity is much more likely to receive a lost mode command compared to a device with Wi-Fi only capabilities. Again, that's just like something to keep in mind when using lost mode. Moving on to activation lock. Activation lock is an Apple security feature that protects devices by linking a user's personal Apple ID to a device. If a device is ever wiped or restored with activation lock enabled, the user's Apple ID and password are required to unlock that device. When the organization deploys supervised devices with Jamf Now, though, this activation lock feature can be bypassed. That means that if an employee ever leaves without removing their Apple ID, Jamf Now can provide a code to unlock the device, which you see happening right on the screen here, which will allow your organization to set it up as new, get past that lock, and re-enroll the device back into Jamf Now if that's the end goal. You could set up and assign email accounts to devices via blueprints in Jamf Now. Once an email profile is installed on the device will prompt the user to enter their email credentials, such as their email account and password. And if you're using Exchange, you can even sync content like emails, contacts, calendars, notes, and reminders to the device through Exchange Active Sync. So pretty nice. Now let's move over to our main essential recommendation for Jamf Now Mac management. And that main recommendation is File Vault. File Vault is full disk encryption on the Mac. When you use Jamf Now to enable File Vault on a Mac, the recovery key generated during encryption gets forwarded into Jamf Now for storage. This key is handy in cases where the local password is either unknown or forgotten. And you can use the recovery key in situations like these as an alternative way to log into the Mac. This alternative login option is really handy for those users who are chronic password forgetters, or in situations where an employee leaves an organization and you need to get access to the contents of the Mac. We always recommend ensuring that all Macs have File Vault enabled for security purposes, as well as ensuring the recovery keys are stored in situations in situations where they're needed, pretty much. So greatly decrease the likelihood of ever getting fully locked out of a Mac, which will likely require device erasure if you're unable to get access back into it. So File Vault, very important. Storing your recovery keys, do it if you can. Let's go over some of the key benefits of Jamf Fundamentals and how you can use them to enhance the management benefits of your devices. Starting off with self-service. Self-service allows users to browse and install which Mac App Store apps and custom apps they want on their computer. Self-service is great at giving power to the end user to download and install the applications and packages they want but may not need. When adding an app to a blueprint, you're given the option on whether you want to add the app or package, whether you want that to install automatically, as well as whether you want it to show in self-service. So kind of in the background, I added Apple Configurator 2 to show in self-service. I opened up self-service. I found Apple Configurator 2 there, and I clicked download. So that's kind of what the experience is like from the end user's perspective. And you can add a bunch more apps other than just Apple Configurator in there. So now let's go over Jamf Connect and Jamf Protect and how those can be beneficial to your Mac management situation. You can enable Jamf Connect on a Mac to sync local user passwords with an identity provider like Azure or Okta. The user's network and local passwords are checked every 15 minutes to verify that they're in sync. And if the identity provider and local password ever get out of sync, Jamf Connect will prompt the end user to enter their current local password to get in sync with the identity provider. So let's see this next video I have here, see what that looks like. So here I'm logging into Jamf Connect with my identity provider credentials. I hit sign in. Jamf Connect notices that the local password I currently have set is different than the one I used to authenticate with my identity provider there. I enter in my current local password, and when I hit sync, now we'll have both the local password and the identity password the same, and that being the password for the identity provider. So enabling malware prevention via Jamf Protect on macOS can be used to detect, block, and quarantine malicious processes. Malware prevention uses the Jamf Protect threat database to monitor processes at the time of their launch. And when a threat is identified, Jamf Protect automatically blocks a process and quarantines the associated application. A prompt about the block process is displayed to the end user, just like the example that you see on your screen. And these are both very powerful tools that can be utilized to protect Macs and ensure their passwords are compliant and up to date. So, two huge, powerful tools that are available through Jamf Fundamentals. Moving on to custom profiles. Really, the purpose of custom profiles is to utilize profile types that Jamf Fundamentals doesn't support natively. This allows you to take advantage of the many different payload types available in Apple's MDM protocol. And you can create a custom configuration profile using Apple Configurator 2. We also recommend using iMazing, which I'm currently downloading on the screen. Once created, profiles can be uploaded into Jamf Now and deployed via a blueprint. Some popular configuration profiles used by our admins are things like content filtering, VPN, and privacy preferences policy control, also known as PPPC. And our colleague Eric has a great JNUC 2021 session on the creation of custom profiles. So we definitely recommend checking that out if you haven't already and you plan on digging into and using custom profiles, because it's a very thorough presentation that goes over essentially similar to this, tips and tricks that you can use to best utilize custom profiles. So now let's go over some final account recommendations that we have for you to really, truly harness the Jamf Now and Jamf Fundamentals products. Going over setup steps. Felix mentioned this earlier, but you may find certain setup steps unnecessary. So we recommend taking advantage of this feature. Configuring what setup steps show during device setup can be a great saver of time during device setup and rollout. You can pick and choose which setup steps to appear during Setup Assistant, which can allow you to customize a device setup experience and requirements, both for you as an admin if you're the one setting up these devices, but also for the end user if you're shipping the device to their house and they have to set it up. You'll want to pick and choose and make sure that they're getting the setup experience that you want them to have. Moving on to Teammates. Teammates for Jamf Now enables you to share administration level functionality with other members of your team in a secure and controlled manner. Utilize this feature if there are many different admins who need access to your account for whatever reason. You know, this could be for like billing, if someone needs to go in there and get like invoices, or anyone that needs to do device management purposes, or, you know, even if it's just checking inventory. There's a bunch of different reasons why a teammate may be valuable to add to your account. Another thing to keep in mind, you can export all the information from your device dashboard into a CSV file. This will pull all the info, such as serial numbers, device phone numbers, models, device types, file vaults, any device notes, etc. It's going to essentially pull anything that Jamf knows about the device and export it in a CSV file. This makes it easy to see an overview of your devices and all the device information that Jamf Now has gathered from them. And it's also a handy way to essentially take a snapshot of all the device information that you have at that point in time in case you ever need to circle back and reference it. So, you know, use that how you will. Finally, we want to make sure you're set up for success. So always feel free you can reach out to us if you ever have any device management questions. You can reach out to support for technical questions and issues by emailing us at support@jamfnow.com or accessing our in-product for live chat. Currently, I'm showing you also the Help Center, which is great, and in different languages too, depending on your location and what language you use. And you can also reach out to Success for more workflow-related questions and onboarding assistance at success@jamfnow.com. We'll have those emails in the handout. We also have them referenced here right on this last slide here. Here are our resources and references. We have the handout. We have the docs.jamf.com/jamfnow, and then success@jamfnow.com, and also support@jamfnow.com. Thank you all for watching. Thank you as well for your valuable time, and have a great rest of your day and JNUC 2022. We'll see you next time.